Coming to you from an undisclosed location, somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains, I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to another show. We're going to be talking about all things Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the hairy man, and other names, Yeti. It's all over the map, and we'll be talking with Vince about this, and we'll get into that. First, a word from our trusted sponsor. Folks, as we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing we've all learned, it's that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan, it's a gamble. For over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves and the people they love by diversifying their wealth with gold and silver. Look, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing is for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital. It's physical, it's lasting, and it's yours. So when you're sitting around the table this holiday season, surrounded by family, remember, the best gift you can give isn't under the tree. It's peace of mind. And that's what Noble Gold delivers. Peace of mind, 1 ounce at a time. Before the year ends, take one smart step toward a safer future. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. Get your free wealth protection kit today. Once again, noblegoldinvestments.com. As we wrap up 2025, we know that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan. It is a gamble. Folks, noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. So, folks, here's the deal. We're here every single day, 365 days a year, God willing, and members only. Right now, you get 10% off everything in the store, but on Black Friday till Christmas Day, 50% off members only. 50% off everything in the store, okay? Are we taking care of the members or what? So you get books, DVDs, everything is 50% off. So just for members only. And also we have members only content and of course the monthly news magazine. It's a way of saying thank you for supporting what we do here. So let me get into this, Vince. First of all, thanks for coming on the record. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Recently, I was talking to David Pilates, who has a film coming out, and I'm actually in that film. He interviewed me, and we were talking about his film. It's coming out. We'll probably have him back on again when, a couple of days before the actual release. But what I find really interesting about all this is there are now many researchers that are probing into this thing. And I'm going to get you in here in just a second, but when I was like 15, 16 years old, 16, 17 years old, Leonard Nimoy was on. There's only 3 channels, no satellite TV, and they showed the Gimli Patterson film. And I was just blown away by that and figured, oh my gosh, this is, what are we looking at here, right? And someone sent me a couple of years back the digitized version of that, frame by frame by frame. I've always believed it was real. My dad, who was a skeptic of all things supernatural, it's a guy in a gorilla suit. Not so fast. That first of all, the gorilla suit, when it turns to the side, it's a female. It has breasts. So I don't think they made female gorilla suits back in 1966. Vince, thanks so much for coming on the record. I appreciate it. Let me ask you something. How did you get, it's just like, you don't wake up on a Monday morning and go, I think I'm going to start investigating Bigfoot and Sasquatch. I mean, you don't do that. How did you?
I do that. And I'm a historian. And so that's something that usually historians do not steep their toes into that part of the river. I was doing research on the Ozarks, and a couple stories just kept popping up on the Sasquatch, which really caught my attention. In 1865 was the first sighting. Now, the one thing that caught my attention on that, how in the world are they coming up with copycatting and mirroring other circumstances with the Sasquatch? It's pretty unique. This is here in the Ozarks in southern Missouri, and there's no way technology in 1865 in southern Missouri, there's no internet, there's very few newspapers, and we have 20 guys chasing down this tall, hairy being that they believe was a hybrid between a person, a human, and something else. dragging and having a club anywhere from 6 to 8 feet, running down the mountain, picking up sheep and pigs. And then they form a posse, and then they're all chasing it. And so I'm thinking, okay, that's a lot of men to chase something that's imaginary. And so I started delving into that, and I thought, how many more circumstances would that can that take place in? And there's not only in 1865, there's also in 1874, 1890, 1911, and 1915 in that same area in southern Missouri on the little place called Spring Creek that goes into the Norfolk River. They're getting a chase after what they call around here for the Sasquatch. It's called the Blue Man. And it's named after a guy named Solomon Collins. And Solomon was a Union soldier, and he wore a blue coat. Therefore, Solomon was the first one to spot him. They're chasing it down. And so Solomon has a blue coat. So they just honorarily named this creature the Blue Man. And so if you hear about the Blue Man in the northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, it's still the same creature as a Sasquatch. I did that story in 2011, threw it up on my blog. I thought, hey, this is kind of fun. And little did I know, about 3 years later, I get a call from a production company out in Hollywood that's doing finding Bigfoot, and they wanted to do that story. And so I had the opportunity to work with them for about 3 weeks. And in that time, I just had a lot of people come up with the weirdest stories. But I did know there was one guy that had just moved to the Ozarks that was a dedicated researcher for Sasquatch. And he had, of all the people I've heard, he had the most believable story. And so he only lived about 15 miles from me.
Wow.
I just moved in, and I got to spend 3 days in the evenings with him quite a bit. And then he would come to my office and talk to me. And in that period of time, he started sharing the information that he had. And as a believer, and some of my family may think I'm a little, and some of my friends, a little on the fringe side.
Join the club. It's okay. That's why. Hold on. I'm gonna
Get your helmet there.
I'm gonna put it on right now.
My goodness.
Okay, here we go. So I got my tinfoil hat. Please continue, Vince.
I heard a lot of stories rehearsed in my ears since 2011. And out of all the stories, there are three stories that there's no way I'm not going to look in their face and say, no, that's an absolute hocus pocus, whatever. Because some people just want their little thing of fame or whatever. And I understand that. But these three, they had so many similarities that were happening that everybody else was not talking about. I mean, they were not talking about it. And so the guy who helped me do this and learn, he's a former Navy SEAL. He made golf clubs for professionals. And he had this experience in 1977 that literally changed him when he met his first Sasquatch.
Okay, I got to stop you right there. I got to stop you. Yes, sir. Okay, because now, this is serious stuff. And I get it, everybody should have a tinfoil hat. You just walk into church with your tinfoil hat. You need to do that, right? Because this is why we talk about this. The churches will never talk about it, but we do. Because the supernatural is manifesting, and we don't believe these are apes. We believe that there's something else. Okay, so he has an encounter with his first Squatch, which not everybody gets. I don't want one. I have no desire to see these guys. What was his encounter like?
I don't want to see one either. He invited me to go out in the woods with him.
Yeah, not joking.
For encounters, but I'm like, no. This is.
I'm not going to seek it. I'm not going to seek it. No,
I'm not either.
No.
So what happened? He's sitting in his car, and he sees this Squatch come around to the front of his car, and he has his windows up. His wife and friends are in the cabin, and they're watching this. And so the Squatch comes over. He reaches into his glove box, pulls out a weapon. He has a pistol, and he arms it. And he said that Squatch looked down through the window, and he says, "This is the one that people miss on characteristics." He said it talked to me.
Yeah,
and it was telepathic.
Mind speak.
Talking.
Yep.
And he said he did not move his lips. He said that thing grimaced, and he said when it spoke to me, he said, "How dare you point that at me? I could have killed you already." He says the next thing he realized, his wife and friends were pulling him out of the car, and it was such a real incident. He doesn't remember everything about it, but the incident, he soiled his pants.
Sure.
And his friends thought it was funny.
It's not funny.
No, it's not funny.
Not funny.
And so the communication and the telepathy, which I'm like, okay, now this is different. This is more life. And I don't believe in ancient aliens. I believe more in fallen watchers.
I do too. We're on the same page.
And so it starts to mirror interdimensional entities, what I've studied on and seen different things with fallen watchers and maybe demons, but more of a watcher style. And so that is the one thing that caught my attention. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. They're speaking to you telepathically. He's going, yes. And the man, I have so many questions. He would not budge. He was solid. You couldn't trick him up. I know how to do research. I know how to question. I've been trained on how to do that. And he was just solid on it that's how they communicate.
Yeah, mind speak. All right.
Yes. The other thing he was really big on is, what are they? What kind of creature are they? And so I said, well, what do you think they are? He says, well, you're a Christian. You're not really going to believe me because I've gone to so many churches and pastors and they don't want me around.
No, they don't.
And he had basically given up on the faith because there are people that resist the supernatural. And so he was believing the supernatural, and he just spouted off. He says, I bet you don't believe in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4.
Wow. Wow. And that's my feel high, says we know.
Right. I said, I've heard about this since I was a kid.
Right.
I used to have an evangelist come to our church, and he would stay at our house. And he was raised an Orthodox Jew as a kid, and so was his dad was a rabbi, and they both gave their heart to the Lord. This guy would talk about Genesis, and as a little kid, he would talk about the giants.
Right.
And so I was talking to him. I believe that they existed back then and even today. He says, well, Christians really don't believe that in America. That's the problem. And it hurt my heart, honestly, that there were supernatural signs bumping against in the wrong kingdom, I will say, but still there were supernatural evidences that the Western church just cannot swallow. Listen, I to my weekly Bible study, I mentioned that I'm going to be doing this broadcast, and I couldn't wait just to throw it. I said, I'm going to be talking about Sasquatch, and you could feel the room kind of go, woo.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've already been on the show, but I said, there is something, it's kingdom issue we're talking about. We're just not talking about woo-woo out there. We're talking about kingdom issues. And my gentleman who had taught me everything he knew, he said, here's their job. He says, I don't know everything about their job, but he says, they are guardians. They're sentinels, and they're sent out to do something, and they're watching. And he kept talking about the watching. And that's when I started going, okay, this has to do something with spiritually with watchers. But he said, this is how you spot them. They're on concourses of railroads, creeks, tributaries. And that's the reason he moved down here in northern Arkansas right off the Norfolk and White River, and there are the railroads through here. And he thought it was a great place to make contact. And before he passed away, he called me twice. He came to visit me and said, you're welcome to come with me. He says, they're approaching me now, which concerned me. And I said, you know what, Cliff, I don't think I'm going to do that right now. I just held off on that. But he believed that they were guardians and sentinels. And he said, most of them are out there. He says, they will kill a person. They are drawn to young kids. They're drawn to women. They're also drawn, he says, some of their favorite food would be deer, rabbit, pigs, and sheep. And all of a sudden I'm going back to my memory and going, wait a minute, I've written about this in 1865, right, the 1870s. And so he was plugging some of the stuff I was talking. I said, do you know about this stuff in the Ozarks? He says, no, but this is what I do know. I will say one evening, he took me to a bedroom and set me down on a bed and gave me a remote control. And he says, I want you to see this video. This is from Washington State. And he says, I want you to tell me what you see when you walk out of the bedroom. And I rewound it and rewound it. And LA, it wasn't human. It wasn't an ape. It was a juvenile. It was ambidextrous standing in a river. And it was catching fish. Both hands. And it was eating fish and then with the other hand. And there was no way with this juvenile standing in the river as he would move and turn with that skin. There was no way. And it came from a 16 millimeter reel to a VCR. There is no way you can manufacture that in the mid-70s to pull that off what I saw. And I walked out. He said, what did you see? I said, I've never seen one before. But that right there, there's something about that's different. And I walked out, I'll be honest with you, I walked out stunned. What I saw.
And let me jump in and ask you something.
Yes.
So Cliff is at the point where he is approaching them, they're approaching him.
Yes.
What did he die of, and how old was he when he died?
He was 83, 84 years old.
Okay, so he's off
2001.
All right.
Old age probably. Just he was getting up in years, and he was so wanting to relate what he had. He even commissioned a sculpture or a statue of the Sasquatch. I think I sent a picture of myself standing by in his living room. The thing was at least 9 feet tall. As soon as I walked in, I thought, this is what David felt like. When he met Goliath. The hands, and he got one of the best sculptors in America to do it. He spent, in 1977, he laid down $9,000 to get it done. That's a lot of money.
I know he's 1977. Oh, yeah, it's a whole different deal.
And then he just said, I'm going to give you all the pictures that I have of this right here. I think he had somewhere. I said, I hate to take all your pictures. He gave me a stack of pictures of it being built and what he had commissioned to have done to get that in a 3D. It was, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, if this guy's a lunatic, there is no way you would spend this kind of money. I mean, we're talking about an artable man, Navy SEAL,
right?
Has professional golfers come to him to get the golf clubs, and he's willing to risk all of that for a reputation like I've experienced Sasquatch. And
I know why.
I will tell you one caveat. There was one part of it when he passed out. He wanted to know what was going on. He went and got hypnotized just to figure out that block in time that he could not remember.
Okay.
That his family and friends were telling him about, and he did remember that.
And what was it?
That it turned around and walked away. But the words, he says, I got the words. He said, it started saying the words. I only had part of it. He says, how dare you get ready to shoot me. But
I could have killed you.
I could kill you. I didn't have that. I didn't know what I was going to say next. And so he went through that. I know some people have an issue with that. I wouldn't do it. I don't agree with doing stuff like that on my spiritual walk with the Lord.
Right.
But that's what he did. I mean, the man was committed on finding out everything he could with that. With that also, he talked about the excellent eyesight. I've had 2 other hunters tell me their stories that matched his story, that they popped their gun and looked through the scope and a Squatch is up in a tree. And all of a sudden they're at a good distance. And as they're getting through it and looking at the scope, one guy thought to himself, what in the world am I doing out here with a 22? I'm squirrel hunting and I've got a scope
right
on a big creature. And he said that thing turned and looked at him way up in a tree. And he says, I was a really good distance. I was about 75 yards away. He says, that thing glared at me right through my scope. It knew exactly where I was at. And he said that look on his face, he said, Mr. Anderson, that's not human. No, it says, he says, that's not an animal or a bear.
No, it's something else. And, we talked about the late Scott Carpenter and I, that there was he gave me the footage. So that Scott is walking with a backpack and a camera facing behind him. And all of a sudden I'm going to use this as a prop. This perfect circle appears in the trail. So here's the trail and here's the circle. And inside the circle is a Sasquatch on one knee with an elongated skull like the one we have in the background here. It's unbelievable. And that's, he had that on film. And a couple of months later, I believe he was taken out. I believe that they killed him. So, you talk about and I've heard this from other researchers, that they are the so-called the guardians of the forest. But who are they really working for? Who do you think they're working for?
Well, this is why I bring up the Watchers. I said, and I asked the same thing. Who are they working for? He said, most of the time, everywhere I see these, he said, these creatures, he says, there's UFO activity. UAP, today is UAP, UFO.
Yeah, same thing.
He said, they're working for them. He says, there's entities, and he says, they're interdimensional. He says, they can go in and go out. He said, so if one's on a chase or what you think you're going to shoot one, he says, it has the ability to escape. And it's gone through a portal.
Yeah.
He says they can pop back again.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. And my other question was, so here in the Ozarks, we're infested with ticks and chiggers. One of my first questions was, okay, we have a hairy beast out here. How in the world are they not infested with ticks and chiggers?
Sure.
It's just my curiosity. And he said because of the portals, he says, I really believe they have electromagnetic field around them that helps repel insects off of them. And he says, I cannot prove that. He says, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going on with that. If you start looking at that, these creatures are just not robots. He believed they were not robots. They have reasoning abilities. They have emotions. They have an excellent sense of smell. And he said, this is the thing you need to watch with your children in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
Which brings up just sitting there talking with him over the evenings and him coming to my office, it started linking all these other strange things of, in the forest disappearance. And I will tell you, after 3 or 4 days with him, I'll just say in my heart, I could not look at him and say, no, I don't believe you a bit. This man experienced something supernatural. And and in the Western church, we kind of separate the supernatural from the spiritual. I've gone on mission trips to Mexico. They don't have a problem bridging that.
No, I know. I get it. I get it. Right.
I've done mission work on the Navajo Nation. They don't have a problem with the blending here, but for some reason, our Western church, we can. It's so easy to divorce all that. And,
yeah. There's a saying I came up with years ago. Are we really the people that believe in the virgin birth, talking donkeys, floating axes, men that walk on water that's changed into wine, storms that are calm with one word? I mean, do we really believe that? Because that's all supernatural stuff. And yet, when we're faced with the supernatural, especially in the United States, no, we don't want that here. I mean, I've been dismissed from churches and everything else because of what I was delving into, i.e., UFOs and, of course, Bigfoot, the Nephilim, the whole 9 yards. Let me ask you something. You talk about you were on the set with Finding Bigfoot. We used to have a joke in our household because we watched it, not Finding Bigfoot. Is just like, it's like Hawaii.
Reality TV, folks, is not reality.
No. And I know it's all scripted, all of it's scripted, and it's a joke. But the bottom line is something is out there. I've had people come up to me and, it's like Scott Carpenter and others, and now yourself. So I believe it's real. I believe, this is my take and this is my question. Do you think that the present day Squatches, first of all, question number one, are they Nephilim? are they genetic manipulation from the fallen watcher angels? So are they some sort of a demonic hybrid? Number one. And number two, is it safe to say that the numbers have increased, number of sightings have increased exponentially since 1948?
Yes. Yes on both. So
Okay.
the reason I believe on your first one, I'm just going to go to a script. God has not given us the spirit of fear,
Amen.
but a power, love, and a sound mind.
And
I'll tell you what, the second night I left his house and he's out in the country. It's the boondocks.
right.
And I'm driving home.
And it's dark.
I come up to a stop sign, and I will tell you what, a spirit of fear climbed up in my vehicle.
Yeah.
And I started praying and pleading the blood of Jesus. So, because I'm like, no, I didn't order snakes. I'm not going to order snakes. That's a phrase we use, right?
Like, that's great.
We're not ordering snakes here on this end.
They're not ordering snakes, buddy. I like that. That's good.
So, the spirit of fear, and when I deal with this, and I've talked to people who are interested in, when then I really start to delve into it, and I can tell fear is a motivating factor in there. And I will tell you what, these things mostly, just by everything I could find, really, they operate by the spirit of fear. So that tells us automatically what kingdom we're dealing with.
Yep, I agree.
Since 1940, I'll tell you what, and I did send you a note. I've prayed about this, and there was an experiment done called Babylon Working.
Yes,
and
I'm very familiar with that. Very familiar
with Jack Parsons and yes,
in the crew.
So since that time, I started looking up for different things going on, and since that time, you would have Sasquatch sightings here and there. They would be sparse, but since that time, and you start hitting in the 50s, it has grown exponentially. And people can jump on the bandwagon and just predicate it further, but I will tell you what, I believe there was something to that since that demonic experiment ritual that went on out there. And so
he opened something up. I mean, there's no, in my mind,
we thinned the veil.
Yeah,
they thinned the veil. Something opened.
Something came in,
and it changed. And it changes. And I will say, here's my weird side. As a historian, I drive through different counties and different parts of America. I can, on the inside, there is times I can cross a county line and I can tell on the inside, okay, there's something different here. Yeah, there's the powers, there's rulers of authority, and there's spirits of influence that are different from one county to the other. I give the Ozarks, and I love the Ozarks, but I'm telling you what, there's different things going on, and I could, as a historian, I know the background from these places, and there's spiritual entities that's governing and ruling different things.
And
look, that's where I come from.
I completely concur with you. There are certain places where I remember I took a team into a great circle mountain in Ohio, and we had a woman with us. She's part of our team, First Nation person, and she just goes, "Do you feel that?" I go, "No, because I'm a white guy. I don't feel anything, right? For the most part." But I mean, I am sensitive to certain things, and the oppression from the enemy and walking into places. But she immediately picked up on stuff. I mean, they were
one of his first encounters, since you mentioned that, is in Ohio.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. Very dark place. Not all of it, but it's a very, very dark place.
Right.
And it's Nephilim, Fritz Zimmerman's book, Nephilim Chronicles, Fallen Angels in the Ohio Valley. Look, I think everything is dovetailed together. So here's my question to you. Are we ramping up towards something? Is that why? Because, you get one Squatch in a town and all hell breaks loose. You put three of these guys, and because they can pop in and pop out, you can't kill them. And they're creating havoc in ways that we've never seen. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I concur. I do think these are spiritual entities. They are, a kingdom doesn't function to regress. The kingdom of God is advancing, but I will tell you what, the kingdom of darkness is not going to sit on its back haunches and just let things roll over. They are going to make advancements, and they're going to send out foyers to do different things too. And so there is, and we're talking about going out and seeing a Sasquatch, whatever, but but we wrestle not against flesh and blood, and we wrestle against entities by the power of God and the blood of the Lamb, and that's how we're going to overcome. But yes, I believe there is a spiritual warfare that's going on with this.
I find it alarming that the number of sightings have increased exponentially. The population, is growing. They're out of sight for the most part, but you're dealing with supernatural entities that can pop in, pop out. Let me just tell you one story, and I was talking to David Polives about this, and I've told the story before, but there was a woman who lived in Canada right up against a national forest. So she had, maybe 50 acres or 100 acres, whatever, but her farm, her husband's farm, was right up against a national forest. There was a field, this is spring, so it's a fallow field, and about a mile away, her closest neighbor is hanging her wash. It's a beautiful spring day, clothesline. She's out there hanging her wash. So she's looking across the field, but in front of her house, about 50 yards away, there was some like scrub brush, small trees. And all of a sudden, the Squatch just appears out of nowhere. And it's not looking at her, it's looking across the field at the woman hanging her clothes. And she just sat there like, completely stunned for probably 2 or 3 minutes. And then this thing just popped out and vanished. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did the show Finding Bigfoot in 2015, and I wrote the article in 11, and those first 4 years I would get requests and talks, but after that it just opened up.
Well,
and I will say, I was thinking, I used to be in the pulpit ministry. I'm thinking, why on the earth am I doing these crazy? The Lord just opens up doors like this. I was on other shows too, and I'm like, why? And in the midst of that, I've had cast and actors. I've had opportunities to talk with them.
There you go.
And I will tell you what, these people are not idiots on spiritual entities and powers. They may know on the dark and opposite side, but I will tell you what, I was impressed with some of them that know way more spiritual things than the nominal believer in America. And folks, these people are they're influencers. You're on the internet and stuff. You're called, I'm an influencer. These people on TV doing this, they are influencers. Where you're chasing spirits and ghosts, or where you're chasing a Sasquatch, there's an influence there, and all of it. And whether it's TV or not, they operate by the spirit of fear. Wow. Just be aware when you watch those shows with your kids. There's a spirit of fear there. So what you're putting in.
Well, I mean, Vince, you said earlier that it's like we've nothing given a spirit of fear. Fear is the currency of the kingdom of darkness. Faith is the currency of the kingdom of Jesus, of our Messiah, of our Lord. So, when a person, wow, I mean, you start, and this is, let me just weigh in here, folks. Don't go looking for these things. Don't get a couple of friends and sit in the deer blind and try to call them in, banging on trees, whooping like they do and not finding Bigfoot. Don't even think about it. Don't seek it. You don't want this in your life. You just don't. It's almost like playing, and this is my final question to you. In some ways, these guys are out there looking for this stuff. It's like playing with a Ouija board.
Yes.
It's the same deal. I mean, you're out there chasing something that you shouldn't be chasing. I'll give you the last.
They were behind you. You have a long-ended skulls.
Yeah.
He also brought up there's different styles of skulls and heads. Some are more of a cone dome, some are more of a dome, some are more of a cone shape.
Right.
And when he was we were talking about, he says, I think these are different subspecies.
Right, subspecies, right.
And he brought up the shape of the head. I'm like, oh my goodness, now you're bringing in the shapes of the heads now. So a lot of this just kind of, I think it all works together in the kingdom of darkness.
Oh, it does. This is this to me this is water in the last of the last days. You look at those cone heads there, those elongated skulls from Peru. Isn't it interesting that Sasquatch has this huge cone head? Vince, thanks so much. I'll give you the last word. And how do people find you if you want to get found?
Oh my goodness. I do not do a lot of Sasquatch research. I've done my big bulk of it. Sometimes I'll go off on a rabbit trail, but I'm on Facebook at Vincent S. Anderson. I'm an Ozark historian. I do a lot of research on those who were once enslaved in the Ozarks, pre-Civil War, different things like that. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm the kind of guy that when I got my graduate degree and focused on African American history, I go out to find cemeteries, and I go out there. Here it goes. I don't know how people will take this. I get down on my knees. I've taken oil and repented over those graves and said, "Father, there are sins here. Yep, forgive the sins." How can I agree with it? There's atrocities, and it's just not the South, folks. Folks, it's all over the United States. I agree with slavery and other things that's happened in history. And the Father has given me a love for history, that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes.
And it's not only the slavery issue, what we did to the First Nation people. And and I got here, my family got here in 1898, so I wasn't involved in any of this, but what the people that were here and all the trees that were broken, and all the land that was stolen and the Trail of Tears, I mean, it's absolutely horrendous. And in some ways, it's never really been rectified. Sorry, it just hasn't. So,
and people going, well, you believe in reparations? I believe in repentance. I do believe in repentance. And my family has been here in America since 1678. Oh, and so I know there's things going on, and I'm thinking, okay, I can be in the element of change. Father, I recognize what happened here on this land. I know what happened here. I've worked on the Trail of Tears through Arkansas and southern Missouri. I've walked it. I pray on that trail, and there's river crossings. I pray. The Lord just opens up doors. And so, I'm on Facebook. I post things anywhere from steamboats to Native Americans to slavery. So, spiritual things come up.
Thanks so much for joining us. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I really appreciate it. That's it, folks. We'll be back tomorrow with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Check out our store, lamarzulli.net. Check out all of our 10 DVD set on UFOs, and of course, our latest film on the Shroud of Turin. It is God's calling card. There's no doubt about it. It is completely real and authentic. It is the face of Jesus. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. God bless you guys.